for whatever reason we had to replace David Moyes in the next few months, I would love Michael Carrick to be the next manager of West Ham United, but only in the right circumstances. The way I see it, there's 4 possible scenarios of what may happen in regards to the managerial position and what also may happen to the club between now and the summer. So we've got scenario number 1, and it's quite simple. David Moyes is still here. David Moyes is a manager of West Ham United when we kick off next season. He's the man in the dugout. He's not been replaced, and he's here for next season, regardless of what league we're in. Whether he keeps us up and we're in the Premier League, or we get relegated but the board decide to stick by him, Moyes is still the manager next season. That's scenario number 1. We're not going to discuss that one today. Scenario number 2 is we have to sack and replace David Moyes between now and the end of the season. Results continue to go against us, the board pull the trigger, and we have to get somebody else in to try and keep us in the Premier League. Now, Michael Carrick would not be my number 1 choice in this situation, because I think then you're looking for a firefighter manager, somebody that can come in and just keep you in that Premier League. And I think there's little evidence that Carrick would be that man. There is a small smithering, which is, look at the job he's done in such a short time at Middlesbrough. He's gone in there and he's changed them just like that. So he can do it in a short space of time, but that's in the Championship. And Middlesbrough have got a good team. They had a good team when he went in there, but we'll get on to that. So there's little evidence that Carrick could come in at West Ham and keep us in the Premier League. Would I be against the appointment? No, absolutely not, because I would be looking at it for next season, which is either he keeps us up, brilliant, your reward is you're now a Premier League manager at West Ham United next season, let's see what you've got. If we get relegated, we fall a bit short, which it'll be a case of, well, it's not your fault. Now let's see what you can do next season. So I wouldn't be against appointment as such. I just don't think he'd be the right man to bring in under those sort of circumstances. Now, this scenario is probably the most unlikely one, because for both sides of it, West Ham side, that would mean we have to sack David Moyes. And then the second side is Middlesbrough side. Why would he leave Middlesbrough? Why would he leave before the end of the season? And I think that's at best. There'll be a lot of Middlesbrough fans, I'm aware, watching this going, what? Why would he leave us in the summer? I'll get on to that as well, all right? Just hold your horses. I'm not saying he definitely will. Just calm down, right? But he certainly wouldn't leave before the end of the season. I think they'll nick it. I think they'll get second and get promoted automatically. But even if they don't manage that, because they're still a few points behind and they played a game more, they're nailed on for the playoffs. Carrick just would not leave before the end of the season. And then there's the third part, which is West Ham would have to pay compensation, etc., etc. So scenario 2, it's possible, but unrealistic. So let's pop that to one side. Scenario number 3, which is we stay up, but we sacked David Moyes anyway. Ex-West Ham employee did his podcast on the West Ham Way Patreon on Monday, and he said in there that the board have actually lost faith in David Moyes, that they don't necessarily feel he can turn it around. It's more that they've got a lack of faith in themselves to replace David Moyes. But what that does do is it sets a scenario that Moyes could keep us up, but we dismiss him in the summer anyway. And I think that's what a lot of people are possibly hoping for, feeling that scenario number 1, which is we sack him before the end of the season, is unrealistic. And if you do feel like that, I think there's a few fans hoping that he keeps us up and gets dismissed anyway. So that's scenario number 3. Now, I probably wouldn't go after Michael Carrick in that situation either. You all know who I want at this point. If we stay up and we sack Moyes in the summer, it's not Michael Carrick, but it definitely is Michael Carrick for scenario number 4, which is if West Ham do get relegated and sack David Moyes in the summer. Now, assuming Middlesbrough don't go up, because I think if we go down and Boro go up, I think you've fully had it really. I don't think you're going to get Michael Carrick. But should Boro go via the playoffs and fail to make it into the Premier League, and they remain in the Championship and we drop down to the Championship, I think that's when Carrick becomes a realistic possibility for West Ham should they wish. And that's when he would become my number 1 choice. Because I think in all those 3 scenarios, and which is replacing David Moyes, I think you're looking for a different manager than them all. Short-term manager, type manager number 1, we go down, but we're staying. We go down and replace Moyes. You're looking at type number 2, which is Michael Carrick, I think. And then the third one, which is we remain in the Premier League but sack David Moyes. I think you're looking at a different type of manager altogether. But should West Ham get relegated and Boro fail to get promoted, I would love Michael Carrick next season. So while loads of people last night were tuning in to Manchester City thumping Leipzig, I was watching Middlesbrough draw 1-1 with Stoke City. Now, I actually tried to watch as much of Middlesbrough as I can since Michael Carrick went there, because I was intrigued to see how he would do. He's sort of one of my favourite players when I was a little kid, running around the playground with Carrick on the back with the nationwide number on the back of my shirt. Nice one. But it's somebody that I've just really, really liked. I think he's been a fantastic player. Obviously, he's gone through the coaching route at Man United before waiting for the right job. Got it at Boro. And what he's doing there is nothing short of superb, really. So I have tuned in as much as I can. They're my most watched Championship team this season. Don't watch them every week. I'm not pretending that I do. But I do watch them as much as I can because Carrick's got me intrigued. And I like what I see a lot. The way that he plays football. But hearing him talk is... It sounds a bit weird. I realise this is sounding weird when you say it out loud. But when you see him and hear him in press conferences, in interviews, and how respectful he is, and just how... I'm trying to not use the word calm. Because calm is a word that everybody attributes to Michael Carrick. He was that on the football pitch. But when he was at Man United, Fred said Michael Carrick took the training sessions under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and they were very, very calm. The environment was really good for them. When you hear Howson speak about him as Middlesbrough manager and he speaks about Carrick being calm, Gibson as well, saying that Carrick is such a calm person and when you're speaking to him or whatever, he can be quite quiet, but he's just taking it all in. A very, very calm operator. And he comes across like that in interviews as well. But the way they play football is superb, a bit of a 4-2-3-1 on paper, but it very much interchanges as soon as they get up and running with the ball. Giles bombing it down the left, tucking in to make it that old Stoke player, which is it Smith? Smith played right back, tucks in to become a 3 at the back. Hayden Hackney running things. I've whenever I've watched Hayden Hackney, I've absolutely loved him. I love to see him at West Ham. Not in the Scotland squad, which I know I'm going off at a tangent here. Bit of a disappointment. He's somebody that I wouldn't mind getting capped pretty quickly so that he's sort of stuck with Scotland. But he looks like somebody heading for the top. An academy graduate at Middlesbrough as well, at the heart of things for Michael Carrick. But the way he's transformed them. Now, what I will say is when he came in, it gets sort of labelled up as Carrick's turned them from sort of like a relegation battling team into a promotion chasing team. And while I agree with the second part, you have to. It's there. Look at the league table. You can't deny that. I don't really agree with the relegation part. Were they down the bottom of the table when he took over? Yes, they were. But I don't think it was a difficult job to get them away from it. And I think if Wilder remained there, I think he would have got them away from the relegation zone relatively easily as well. It's all hypothetical and opinions, but I don't think Boro would have got relegated or even been in a relegation battle. And when he took over, it was because it was so early in the season. There wasn't that much points between sort of where Middlesbrough were and the playoff zones either. Now, it's not to say that he's not doing a good job. He's doing a fantastic job there. But I think to say that he's turning from relegation team into a promotion team, it's a bit far stretched. In my uneducated opinion. But the way they play and the way that he speaks, and Carrick always talks about having purposeful possession, the way that he plays at Boro, but he doesn't mind grinding out results. He doesn't mind doing that. He sees that as just having another way of playing football, if you like. But the way that he likes to play is retain possession and keep the ball. But like I said, he calls it purposeful possession. He's transformed one or two players as well. One or two players that couldn't get sniff under Wilder are now playing under Michael Carrick. Obviously Akpom as well, who they bought in this last summer, loaned him out. He's come back in. He was basically told to find a new club. I think he's the top goal scorer in the Championship. If not, he's not far off it. Banging in goals for fun now. Carrick has transformed him. Came in, took him from the sort of a number 9 position, dropped him back into the number 10. And when Carrick's been asked about why he done that, he basically said instinct. From what I've seen on the training ground, instinct suggested that he'd be better off just dropping back into the number 10 role. I've done that. He's now scoring goals, kind of thing. Middlesbrough are a joy to watch. Most counter-attacking goals in the Championship. Most shots taken from inside the box as well. Under Carrick, scored loads of goals. It's not that they're winning 1-0 and grinding out every single week. They've got that capability, but they are free-flowing attacking football at times. And it's a joy to watch. And I've seen a lot of Middlesbrough fans really praising Carrick and Jonathan Woodgate. He's got Woodgate there as his assistant manager, and about the football they're playing, about how enjoyable it is, and it's, I guess, nice to see for Boro fans. They're good sized club, and they've always been sort of lingering in and around the playoffs since they got relegated, really. They've just not made it back, and now there's probably real hope that they can. And Michael Carrick is a big part of the reason for that. And I think if West Ham were to get relegated, for the first time since this lot took over, you probably could say we're now looking for a project manager, somebody that can come in, that is a bit younger, that can look ahead to 2, 3, 4 years at West Ham and say, right, this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it. But he's working wonders at Boro. And like I said, if Boro go up, and I think they will, then it's probably unrealistic. But if they don't quite make it to the promised land of the Premier League and we get relegated, I would absolutely love Michael Carrick. The one thing that I think, well, I say it's a bit of a problem at Boro, it's not really. He's relying on players on loan, but that's what you do when you're in the Championship because of financial constraints. You look to bring players in from the Premier League. He's done that. He's got Stefan in on loan from Manchester City, who is a big part of the reason they can play the way they play with their possession-based football, because he's from Man City. He's fantastic with the ball at his feet, especially in that league. And quite often, if they start their build-up, Boro, and they can't get going, they'll happily turn around and say, well, we'll go backwards then. We'll reset the attack. They've got Giles on loan from Wolves, they've got Archer on loan from Villa, Ramsey on loan from Villa as well. So a lot of their key players are on loan there. But then, that's what Forest did. It's a very similar story, isn't it? Cooper took over when they were down the bottom and got them promoted, and a lot of their players were on loan there as well. Funnily enough, one of them from Middlesbrough, with Spence going there. But the way they play is absolutely fantastic. Now, I made notes on this with my old my notepad last night when I was writing it down, thinking about this video. I made a few bullet points. I'm just making sure I've got it all. The only thing I would say about Michael Carrick is he's been a bit patient, and my worry, not that what that's a lie. Not what I don't spend any time worried about it, but my wondering perhaps is if it would be a rush to jump to a Premier League job right now. If he got Middlesbrough up, I think that's a bit different, because when Gibson spoke about hiring him, Gibson interviewed numerous people, 15 people or something for the job, and he went with Michael Carrick, which shows how much he must have impressed in that interview. But Gibson's very much, we don't have to get promoted this season. We want to get back to the Premier League, but we're going to be a little bit patient. We're going to give Carrick time and see what he can do, and hopefully he can get us heading in the right direction and then eventually get us in the Premier League. But there was no pressure on Carrick to get Boro promoted this season. But when you look at how Carrick's gone about things with his patience, and this is what I was talking about, worried, because you look at Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard, straight into management. They do well for one job, as it was with Steven Gerrard, goes to the Premier League and fails. Lampard rushed it a little bit and failed. You just don't really want Carrick going down the same route, but he hasn't done that. When he was at Man United, he retired, worked under Mourinho, then he worked under Solskjaer, and then when Solskjaer left and Rangnick came in, he left as well. He's caretaker for 3 games in between. To be fair, he's got a really good caretaker record at Man United as well, hasn't he? 1-2, draw 1. Carrick did all right when he was caretaker. But a lot of the players, like I said, at Man United really praised Carrick as a coach. He's gone to Boro. A lot of the players really praise him now as well. Like I said, Howson, their most experienced player, really credits him, saying, inside, as in the building, the training ground, it's a really calm environment, but outside of the training pitch, not so much. People are making mistakes, and the training is not going as well as Carrick wants it to. He's not afraid to stop it and start pointing things out to certain players as well. So everything about him at the minute is impressive. The one thing that is lacking is actually, I suppose, the test, which is when it doesn't quite go so well for Boro. How does he react? Can he turn? Because at the minute, I say purple patch, it's a bit longer than that. Since he's gone in, it's only been good news. It's good form, good performances. And that is a credit to him. But we haven't really seen what he does if they lose 4 in a row kind of thing. How does he get out of that? How does he turn it around? There's little to no evidence there. But Jonathan Woodgate's quite an astute appointment as assistant manager, because again, he's somebody, manager at Boro, failed, went to Bournemouth. He did all right at Bournemouth as manager, to be fair. He was only caretaker there for a handful of games after whatever his name starts with T. I can't remember the manager that got sacked. He got sacked about 3 days after. Woodgate, I'm sure, is it Tildesley or so, I can't remember. Anyway, he was the manager, and I think Woodgate came in as coach, and I think about like 3 days later, the manager got sacked and Woodgate was caretaker. A bit of a strange one, but Woodgate did okay. Lost in the semi-final to Brentford before Parker then came in. But Woodgate's got good experience. He's been there, done that a little bit, and is too young as a manager and an assistant. They're still really, really young, but they're doing really impressive things at Boro. Like I said, I know a lot of Middlesbrough fans will be watching this. They could do one. You're not getting in. Why would you go to West Ham? I don't necessarily disagree. Like I said, I think there's only one set of circumstances Carrick becomes a realistic possibility for West Ham, and that is if Boro don't go up and we get relegated. Maybe if we were to stay up, I think a lot of people would want him. I understand why, by the way. I would completely get it. I wouldn't be against it. But I just don't want him to sort of speed things up a little bit too quickly. I think Championship's a good education for managers down there, but we've seen many managers, some experienced as well, that do really well in Championship, but when they get to Premier League, they just can't quite cut it. Scott Parker probably been a prime example, actually, of somebody that's done it in the Championship on more than one occasion, gone to the Premier League, and it's just not really worked out for him yet. Obviously, he's available at the minute after getting sacked by Club Brugge. But I think that is everything. That is all my bullet points. That the last thing I will say, obviously he got linked to us last week and he got asked about it in the press conference, and I think it depends on which side of the fence you sit on as to how you read that press conference, because he batted it away to some extent, but obviously he said it was basically a bit of a compliment, but he's delighted at Middlesbrough. He's got a lot of respect for West Ham and David Moyes, because obviously he played under David Moyes briefly. He played under Moyes at Man United, and he was, I thought it was a very respectful answer. I think he sort of half committed to Middlesbrough, but he didn't say he would never be interested in the job or he would never want the job or anything like that. And I thought it was quite, like I said, it probably depends on what you want to happen as to how you view it. If you're a Boro fan, I think you look at it going, oh, he's committed to us, look, he doesn't want to leave, kind of thing. But I think when I first heard it, I thought, oh, he's not said he doesn't want the job or anything. He's said what I expect him to say, which is he's delighted to be at Boro. They're doing good things. His attention's only on Boro, but he hopes West Ham stay up and that David Moyes does well. I thought it was a very respectful answer. But I certainly didn't feel like he said no to possibly coming to West Ham. But like I said, I'm looking at it as a biased West Ham fan. I try not to, but it's a little bit difficult. So yes, if we go down and Boro don't go up, Michael Carrick, next manager of West Ham, would absolutely love it, because I think that's the type of manager we need in the summer if that was to happen. Fantastic football at Boro, and you know something, good luck to them. I hope they do get promoted, because Michael Carrick is their manager. I've got nothing against Boro, I've got nothing for or against Boro as a club. I'm very neutral when it comes to them. But when it comes to Michael Carrick, I was a big fan of him when he played for West Ham, and I always say when people play for your club, you become fans of them. Naturally, you support them when they play for your team, but when they leave, you don't always support them. You don't always look at how they get on and hope they do well. Carrick was one of those players, probably one of the first players actually I really enjoyed watching after West Ham, which is not easy to say considering he played for Spurs and Man United and England for myself. Anyway, I'm going to shut up. Michael Carrick, being linked to West Ham, yes please, but only in the right scenario. If you enjoyed this video, please do drop a like on and subscribe if you're new to the channel. I'll catch you in a bit.